Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Alan. My life has been hell with my wife. So when she laughed at me and decided to end the marriage because I lost my job, I agreed to everything she wished to take. And she did take the house and car I got for all when everything was fine. But there is something she never knew I had, and I will be telling you all about it, and how her life fell apart when she found out. I met Sandra, the woman who became my wife 8 years ago, through some mutual friends at a small gathering. It was a regular hangout, with a couple of familiar faces. And then there was her. We started talking that night, and I remember thinking, she gets me. It wasn't long after that evening that we started spending more time together. Coffee dates turned into dinners, late-night phone calls became morning texts, and before I knew it, we were talking about a future together. We didn't date for years. It all moved pretty quickly. I wouldn't say we rushed into marriage blindly, but we definitely didn't drag our feet. I thought I had found my missing rib. I know it sounds corny, but I was certain about her then. At the time, I was working as a software engineer. I had landed a good job straight out of college, and by the time Sandra and I got married, I was making really solid money. My salary covered everything we needed, and then some. We took vacations 2 or 3 times a year. Sandra liked shopping, and she didn't have to think twice about price tags back then. I wanted her to enjoy life. There's a certain pride that comes with being able to take care of your family without worrying about every dollar. We looked like a well-matched couple doing well in life on the outside. On the inside, I thought I had everything I needed. But the truth is, people can enjoy the same sunshine and still be looking for different things. I didn't see it yet back then. I didn't realize that the life I thought we were building together was something she saw very differently. 6 years into our marriage, things started to change. The company I had been working for since I left college started to plateau. We weren't growing like before. Profits were down. Management gathered us for a series of meetings and told us the truth. To keep the company alive, they needed to make serious cuts. The first thing to go? Our bonuses. But that wasn't all. They told us that in the event the company got acquired, we'd be allowed to sell our patents independently, the ones we created during our time there. That got my attention. I had one particular software patent that I had developed. I knew its worth. If the company were sold, I could pitch and sell it. And not just for a few thousand, this thing could change my life. That's why I stayed. I had other offers, sure. I could have taken a new job elsewhere. But I believed in this play. And honestly, I felt like I owed the company something. They gave me my start fresh out of college, and I felt loyal. The trouble started at home as soon as I told Sandra what was going on. I had explained that things would be tight for a while. I told her bonuses were gone for now, but that we weren't drowning. We just needed to ease up a bit until things turned around. Her reaction was brutal. She gave me this look like I had personally insulted her. Then came the cold shoulder. That conversation kicked off a new chapter in our marriage, and not a good one. It was like the woman I married slowly vanished. Sandra used to be supportive, or at least she pretended well enough. I began to notice that everything to her was about status. She became obsessed with how things looked and what people thought. Suddenly, she was comparing me to every man she knew. One time she even asked me, flat out, why she had to live like this, as if we were in poverty or something. We weren't. We still lived in our house. We still had 2 cars. We still ate well. But she wasn't taking 3 vacations a year anymore. She wasn't shopping for new handbags every week. That, to her, was suffering. I kept trying to tell her that things could change any day, that I wasn't just sitting on my hands. But every time I said that, she laughed and said, "Oh please, Prophet Alan. Should I wait until I'm in the grave before things turn around?" She said it with such sarcasm. I tried to explain that switching jobs wasn't as easy as it sounded. I told her that chasing short-term comfort might mean missing out on something bigger. She didn't care. She flat out said, "Then go get another job." I don't want to hear it. And it didn't stop at words. She began staying out late, and at one point, she spent a night outside. I'd ask where she was, and she'd say she crashed at a friend's place. I asked her calmly, "Sandra, you didn't think to come home before it got dark?" She scoffed. "What? Am I supposed to come home to babysit you now?" It became obvious to me. She didn't just lose respect for me. She resented me. And she said another thing: "You're not spending money on me anymore. Don't tell me what to do." After that, I stopped trying because every time I brought something up, she would just sigh dramatically or walk out of the room. I became quiet and withdrawn. It felt like I was living with someone who wanted me to fail, just so she'd have an excuse to leave. And the worst part? I was still holding on, still hoping she'd snap out of it. But I was wrong. Everything in my marriage really started falling apart the day I got the news. The company I worked for had officially been acquired. The writing had been on the wall for a while. When the new owners came in, they wanted a lean team, mostly their own people. I was told politely that I'd be let go, with a severance package. When I got home that evening, I knew I had to tell Sandra. I wasn't expecting comfort because I hadn't gotten much of that from her in a long time. I sat her down and told her directly, "The company's been bought out. I'm being let go. They're offering severance." But before I could even finish, she laughed, looked me in the eye, and said, "I always knew this day would come. You're just not built for success." I don't know how to describe what that moment felt like. It was like she had been waiting, expecting me to fail, or she was finally proven right about something she had been keeping score on in her head. From that moment, it just got worse. She mocked me in front of her friends. She said things like, "He married me just to ruin my life," or "I should have seen this coming. He was never serious." But what she didn't know, and I never told her because of her behavior, was that I had one last card. See, when the company announced the acquisition, as part of the agreement, I had this one patent I developed mostly on my own. My old boss knew about it and told me, "Alan, don't let that patent go for cheap. These new owners will want it badly. They'll pay big for it." He was confident, and that gave me a small, quiet hope. But I told no one, not even my wife. I didn't trust her anymore. She had already shown me that I was only valuable to her when the money was flowing. So I held on to that secret. It had been a month since I lost my job, and in that short time, Sandra's attitude went from bad to outright cruel. So by the time the divorce papers came in, I honestly wasn't surprised. She told me that her reason was that we've grown apart. When I didn't say anything, she added, "I've settled too long. I need someone who's going places." That line stuck with me. Sandra had already checked out of the marriage. I didn't have proof, but I had a strong gut feeling she was seeing someone else. Her sudden overnight stays, and the way she stopped even pretending to respect me now added up. So I didn't fight it. I got my lawyer involved, then signed the papers. Every single thing she wanted, I agreed to. The house, the car, and alimony. But I did have one condition. Through my lawyer, I requested that the alimony payments be calculated up front, so I could just pay everything in one go from the severance package I received when I was laid off. That way, I wouldn't have her or her lawyer chasing me down in the future if my financial situation changed. And most importantly, we included a clause in the agreement that said she would have no right to sue me for any additional payments in the future, no matter what happened. Sandra was thrilled. You could see it in her face. She really believed she was walking away with everything. She even laughed when her own lawyer hesitated. I still remember her lawyer trying to advise her against signing away her future claims. He told her, "This might not be the best move. You never know what could come up later." But she brushed him off. She was too caught up in the idea of her upgrade. She thought she was trading in a failing husband for a better life, and she didn't want anything slowing her down. And so, just like that, the divorce was finalized. No drawn-out court battles and no bitter fights. I let her walk away with everything she asked for and more, and she made sure the world knew it. Sandra went around gloating to her friends, telling anyone who would listen how she took the house, the car, and got paid in full. To her, it was a clean break. To me, it was the closing of a chapter one was more than ready to end. She thought she had won. She thought she had left me in the dust. But what she didn't know, what she never saw coming, was that the real story hadn't even started yet. After the divorce was finalized, I disappeared from the social scene. While Sandra was out flaunting her freedom and boasting about her new man, I kept my profile even lower. I wasn't hiding, I was waiting. The company I had worked at for years, the one that had just been acquired, was still finalizing all the post-acquisition paperwork. These things take time. About 6 months, to be exact. And by the time everything was sealed, for months had already passed since Sandra walked out of my life. Then came the moment I had been quietly preparing for. When the new owners began reviewing our IPs, they saw the patent in my name and wanted it badly. Instead of offering a licensing agreement, which would have brought in royalties over time, they decided to buy it outright. Just like that. The offer was over $80 million, but if things go well, I will get $67 million. I don't care how composed you think you are. When you see that number in writing, your heart skips a beat. But I didn't let it show. I kept things professional, and I followed every piece of advice my lawyer gave me to the letter. He warned me, don't take this in your personal name. If word gets out, people you've never heard of will suddenly think they're entitled to your success. So we set up a limited liability company, an LLC, owned by a trust based offshore. That way, when the money was transferred, it never hit my personal bank account. Legally and financially, I was protected. Sandra wouldn't see a single cent. That night, after everything was finalized, I sat alone and let it all sink in. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't take luxury trips or post anything flashy online. Instead, I opened my own company quietly, under the trust. I chose not to draw a salary. There was no need to. For me, it wasn't about showing the world what I'd become. It had been a little over a year since the divorce papers were signed and the final signatures dried. Life had moved on, or at least, that's what it looked like on the surface. Sandra, my ex-wife, had moved on quickly with a new guy, flaunting their relationship all over social media. Life was great on her end, at least on the outside. Then came the discovery. Somehow, somewhere, Sandra got wind of my fortune. She found out that I wasn't broke and I hadn't hit rock bottom. That I wasn't the failure she told me I was. But what she didn't know was that the thing she mocked me for staying loyal to, the job she said was beneath me, was the same thing that made me wealthy beyond her wildest imagination. To make matters worse, she and her new man had already burned through most of the money I gave her in the divorce. I found out that when you put someone with expensive taste and poor judgment in charge of money they didn't earn, it disappears fast. So when she finally realized that I got somewhat of a payout, she was furious. She lawyered up and filed a motion to reopen the financials from the divorce. Her claim? That I had committed fraud, that I'd hidden a massive payout during the divorce process, and that she was entitled to her share. Suddenly, the same woman who told me I wasn't built for success was dragging me back to court, trying to claim part of the life I built after she left. But what she didn't realize was that she was already too late. Just like with the marriage, she didn't see the value until it was no longer hers to claim. I got a notice from her attorney. Their claim? He hid a massive payout during the divorce. We demand our share. That was her entire argument. When I first read that, I laughed. She clearly had no clue how airtight that divorce agreement was. And I knew she never bothered to read the fine print. My legal defense was simple. First of all, the patent sale didn't happen while we were married. It happened after the divorce was finalized. Legally, that means it's not considered marital property. Case closed on that point. Second, the patent itself was mine from day one. I built it from scratch, on my own time, using my own skills, and without a cent or second of help from Sandra. She didn't invest in it. She didn't even know about it. Third, the money from the sale wasn't even paid to me personally. It went straight into a limited liability company owned by a trust not in my name. Finally, the cherry on top, we had already signed a clause in the divorce agreement that barred either party from suing for additional money later. Her own lawyer had warned her, but she wanted fast cash and signed off anyway. In court, we brought everything. The exact date the patent was sold, months after the divorce. Proof that the patent was created long before she and I even started having problems. Documentation of how the sale and trust were structured. And, of course, the original divorce settlement, with her signature right there next to that clause that said no future claims. When the judge asked me to respond, I kept it calm. I looked straight ahead and said, "Actually, Your Honor, the sale occurred after we signed." And I disclosed everything I was required to. Now, I could have walked out of there satisfied, just knowing the case was dead on arrival. But I didn't stop there. I decided to hit back. I filed my own lawsuit. Why? Because they broke the agreement. That clause wasn't optional. And dragging me to court over something we both agreed was off limits meant breach of contract. So I sued for damages, specifically to cover all the legal fees I had to spend just to deal with their baseless claim. And guess what? The court agreed with me. The judge ruled that Sandra and her lawyer violated the terms of the original settlement, and they were ordered to pay my legal fees. Now, was it a huge sum of money? No, not even close to what I spent during the whole process. But it wasn't about the money. It sent a message loud and clear. You don't get to walk all over people and then cry foul when your gamble doesn't pay off. After everything was finally over, I sat down and wrote a letter. I wrote it because I needed to say something I never got the chance to say during the chaos. And I kept it simple. The letter read, "Thank you for leaving when you did. I couldn't have done this with you around." I knew if she had stayed, I never would have had the clarity or peace of mind to go through with the patent deal. Her negativity, her constant nagging, the pressure to prove myself to someone who never really believed in me would have eaten me alive. So her leaving wasn't just a blessing in disguise. A few days after she got the letter, she called. I let it ring out the first few times. But she kept calling. Eventually, I picked up. She was crying. Finally, she said she's sorry and she messed everything up. Asked if we could meet and just talk. That was the first time in years she sounded like the woman I married. But it didn't change anything. The damage was done long ago. So I told her no. I just said, "I'm not meeting up with you, Sandra. I wish you well truly, but some things, once broken, can't be rebuilt." Now, when people ask me if I know how she's doing, I tell them the truth. I don't know, and I don't care. I really don't. When you finally find peace, the last thing you want to do is go digging into old messes that nearly broke you. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal wasn't just about the divorce. Sometimes the best revenge is not needing revenge at all. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the situation down below. I'd really love to hear what you think.